Hey everybody, it's Damon. It's about 1 a.m. and I am hard at work on my stop motion animation tribute to the Mandalorian, which is coming along slowly but surely. And as promised, I wanted to give you a behind the scenes look at my entire creative process, start to finish. So before I started this next shot, I wanted to give you a look at my setup, which this time is down here on the floor. Okay kids, what we're doing today is the reverse angle of what I shot yesterday, which is the Mandalorian scaling the side of the Off-World Jawa Sandcrawler using his grappling wire and grabbing this ill-fated Jawa and tossing him down to his death down on the ground below. Now I've already shot this from underneath looking up, so today we're shooting the sky view looking down. And so that's what this setup here is. So the whole trick is going to be to create the illusion that the sandcrawler is moving along at a rapid clip and that we are moving along with it. Now the problem obviously is the hardwood floor. Now that is not going to look like the muddy terrain that I need it to look like, and so a lot of people would probably just stick a green screen under there and deal with it in post, but I like to find cheap, practical effect solutions to my problems, and it usually involves going to FedEx Kinko's and printing out some photographs on cardstock, and that's about 80% of my my set design right there. You know, when I watch Star Wars, I think, how can I do this for under $10? And this is usually what I come up with. So today I have created a road of mud that is going to move along and simulate the moving ground as the camera and the vehicle remain still. And how I've done that is I went onto Google and I found a picture of mud and I printed it out twice. And so I wanted to avoid the Flintstones looping thing where, you know, you can see the obvious loop point as the Flintstones are driving, but you know, that's a lot of cartoons use that. But what I did was I flipped the image horizontally so that it would hide the loop a little bit, so there's a few ways I'm going to hide the loop. And first is this jagged edge, you know, is a way to hide the seam between these two pages, because I did. You know, I tried this the lazy way and just with a straight edge, and you could really see the seam as you moved it along, but this seems to really kind of hide it just as much as I need. But I do have the final touches to go along this edge with a Sharpie and hide that white that's showing there from, you know, when I cut it. I've got a lot of white specks that have showed up by my rough handling of this paper, so I'm going to have to go over those with a Sharpie too and sort of dress this a little bit better. But so that's basically the whole trick. This is, I asked for matte, but you know, it's pretty glossy no matter how matte they try to make these prints when you get them professionally printed like that. But you know, you just have to avoid the glare, because you know, when the glare's there it's really bad, but when you avoid it, it's just completely fine. So anyway, as long as I find the right point along here so it's not too symmetrical, because that would look too much like we're tripping. But if I find a good spot to keep it from looking symmetrical, then see, that kind of blends in a way that your brain doesn't really pick it up. One of the reasons I'm making this video is because I'm a very non-traditional filmmaker. I don't have a lot of the right equipment or any money to, you know, budget my films properly. So I just do whatever I have to sort of get it done in whatever dirty way, you know, is necessary. And in this case, you know, I've literally glued my sandcrawler to my tripod very crudely with some hot glue there, and just to get the weird angle that I need, I've got it all sprawled out on the floor here because that's how much room I need to get this little trick accomplished. But you know, I just wanted to show you so that you're not intimidated to you know, do your own films. However, you need to get them done. I mean, look at this. I've got it to block the glare. I've just got this piece of cardboard just crudely taped to the side of my table here to block this light. You know, I don't have proper lights. I'm just using that light and this crappy desk lamp. You know, I don't have any of the right stuff, but I'm just doing what I can with what I got. And I think it comes out pretty good. So, and you know, this cost me $2 at Kinko's, or $4 maybe. And that's all the money that I had to spend, other than the glue stick. That's my entire set for this shot, is 2 pieces of paper. Here is a test shot I did, and I think it's looking pretty convincing actually, so I'm excited to see what it looks like animated. But before I do that, there's one last thing I've got to decide on, which is, you know, this, I showed you the overlapping sort of mirror image that I was hoping would hide the fact that this is using the same image twice. But looking at it closer, I still think that people might subliminally notice the symmetry. So I think to solve that, I'm going to flip this one around 180 degrees, and then that will further, you know, make it less noticeable that it's the same image twice. At first I didn't think that these, I thought that might make the seam stick out and make that more noticeable, but I think in the mud there's enough variation in the color that people aren't, as long as I avoid the glare, that the eye is not going to be drawn to this, and it no longer looks noticeably symmetrical. So I think that basically solves the issue. And why do I care this much about a muddy road out of focus in the background of my shot? Well, it's because I hate being pulled out of a story that I'm sucked into and engaged in by something in the background that wasn't supposed to draw my eye, but some, you know, cost-cutting measure taken by the studio, you know, like a looping background in a driving shot in the Flintstones, you know, becomes really noticeable after a while. And so stuff like that, I would just hate to be pulled out of the story. So I try to avoid it at all costs. Even, you know, if there's a simple solution that's going to solve that problem so that people don't notice the looping background, then gosh darn it, it's worth the effort. Ava, are we ready to start? Ava, are we good? Are we ready to go? Okay. So one last thing I wanted to show you before I start here is how I manipulate my cape here. This is a custom cape that I added to my Mandalorian figure. They have a soft plastic one that comes with the toy, so that doesn't really work for animation. So this is actually a old school Kenner squid head cape from an old Return of the Jedi figure, and I've, you know, folded it over on itself to just show the inside, and I cut a bunch of holes in the bottom to make it look a little bit aged and beat up, but then I just kind of glued it a little on his right shoulder, draped over his right shoulder, and then I've got this wire. It's just running up and down, so I've got two different sort of parts of the wire that help me manipulate the cape, and it sort of holds pose. Like, I can bend up that way, and I can bend back around that way. You know, pretty neat. But then I've only got it fastened in this one spot. I might fasten it, you know, using a tiny bit of glue if I needed it to hold a very specific pose. But I kind of like the flexibility of just having the wire like this for now, because I can just kind of you know, jam it up in there and sort of make it work. I mean, it's, you know, his cape's just supposed to be blowing around in the wind here, so but it's fun to make it have a little bit of continuity and have its own bit of personality there. Anyway, that's one of the fun challenges of this shot. Basically ready to shoot here. I've got this road in the starting position, and I'm just going to pull it along like that. So let's see on the monitor here, do a little test. I'm gonna pull it with my foot here. Yeah, I think that's gonna work. Oops, I just have to avoid doing that. So I'm just gonna kind of use this stool as a guide to guide it along. And that seems like it should work. And I'm not gonna use my foot when I do it for real.